And North Country Assemblyman Billy Jones joins us now. Welcome. It's good to see you.
It's good to be here.
So you've been monitoring the wildfire all week, and they're making significant progress.
Sure. Yes. As of when Thursday night it started, and Friday it was expanding when I was there. But now they have it contained, and the forest rangers and volunteer firefighters and everybody that's come together, all the state agencies and everybody throughout the region has just done an outstanding job, and we're happy to see that it's contained now.
You're pleased with the response?
Oh, of course.
By the state,
yes.
By the governor sending National
Yes.
Guard helicopters, local fire departments, really across the North Country, from Quebec, all coming down to
For
team up
sure.
and battle.
When I was there Friday afternoon, you could see that they had every resource available, and the state was willing to give even more resources, but also all the fire departments from the region giving all their resources as well. So there was a great response, and right now they're just still trying to contain it and monitor it, and we have the forest rangers on it, and they know what they're doing. They're doing an excellent job.
You think that response made a real difference?
I believe so. I believe it did. In coordinating and collaborating with each of the agencies as everyone got along to get the job done.
Townspeople, of course, concerned they could see the huge plume of smoke, but luckily it never got close enough that they were in danger. There were no evacuations, so that was fortunate.
No residences were ever in danger. I don't even believe there was a lot of smoke inhalation from any of the residents. But of course, like you said, when you see those large plumes of smoke, people get a little nervous.
And this wasn't a real surprise to firefighters. This is an area of the state forest where occasionally they have fires like this. They're used to these types of fires.
I believe they were saying 8 or 9 years ago they had a fire in that area as well, on the Flat Rock. And with the conditions that we have here right now in the North Country, of course it was the ideal condition and the perfect storm for a fire of that magnitude.
In Albany, New York health officials are now recommending the legalization of marijuana. 74-page analysis was released by the state health department at the end of last week. Concludes that the benefits outweigh the negatives and the potential risk. It suggests the state could take in nearly $700 million in tax revenue every year. And it says that legalization won't significantly increase marijuana use by adults or teens. What are your thoughts on legalizing?
Well, certainly I think there are still concerns out there, Tom, with legalization of marijuana, but I look forward to working with all the different organizations and my colleagues and lawmakers on coming up with a comprehensive bill that we can all support, and that it addresses some of the things that law enforcement or substance use counselors, some of the concerns they have. Because I have talked to even our local substance use counselors, and they still have concerns with the legalization of marijuana. Even as we move forward in steps with medical marijuana, which I still have some concerns with how that program is running. I don't think it's getting to everyone that it needs to right now. And I've always been under the, under the guise that we should get the medical marijuana program down correctly in this state and then move forward to personal use. But I will say this, I do firmly believe that marijuana legalization will be a reality in this state within a couple of years. I don't think there's anybody that you can talk to on the street that doesn't see the writing on the wall of that happening. I only say, let's come up with a good plan from the outset. Let's get all the agencies, let's get all the people that are involved in this, let's get them involved so we can come up with a comprehensive, good package, good bill that we can all support.
And you talk about medical marijuana. Is your concern that it doesn't cover enough conditions, that there are patients who could use it that aren't getting access to it?
I believe that there's a lot of access, like you say, a lot of access problems to it. We get calls in my office with people that are having trouble getting their medical marijuana card, getting access to marijuana after they have that. So I do believe there are some kinks to be worked out. We cannot forget about the federal piece in this also. As we have these states doing piecemeal legislation, I'm not saying it's not good legislation, I'm saying they're doing piecemeal legislation on this. The feds have come in and said, hold on. They have made statements in the past and said that. I liken it to, let's say, the gay marriage proposals from a couple of years ago. That's the most recent thing that comes to my memory as states were doing it, and then the Supreme Court had to or did step in with a case and make it legal throughout the country. Maybe we don't have that relationship right now with our federal partners or with the court, but I think at some point it's going to come to that. There's going to be a case that comes before the court, and it's going to have to be a federal decision.
And if it does pass in New York, what do you think would be the best way for people to be able to get the marijuana? Should they do like some states and have retail stores and like Canada is going to do, or should they do like Vermont where they only allow homegrown, small amounts of homegrown marijuana?
And I think that's what we have to come up with. We really haven't come up with a plan here in New York on it, and I'm sure in the coming couple of years we will. I don't know what the best case or the best scenario is. For New York, I will say in New York State, we do know how to regulate things, and I do believe that this will be highly regulated and probably taxed pretty well. So I would think more or less the Canadian scenario that you were talking about, they would have more of a regulation on it and a taxing scenario. So I'm just guessing, I would think that's where New York would go with this as far as personal use, but we don't know. We haven't come up with a plan yet.
With a number of states, though, passing it, Massachusetts, Vermont, others now, you think it probably is something that will come before the legislature within the next year or two?
I believe there'll be a decision made on it within the next couple of years, and I believe it will be a reality in New York. Yes, it's it's the writing on the wall. But what I have said is, I think we should come together and come up with a good plan that relieves some of the concerns around it as far as law enforcement and the people in the substance use field.
There are those that believe this could help with the opioid crisis, that it could alleviate the opioid dependency for a number of people.
Sure, yes. And we like I said, we in the Assembly have passed a law just as recently as a month ago, that expands for use of opioid use, expands marijuana for the use of opioid use. So there are, and I think there's bipartisan support on that, and nationwide support on that, the more we get to see on that. But like I said before, there still are some concerns with people in that field, within the behavioral health field, within the the substance use field, that have some concerns with that. And that's where I tend to say, let's listen to them, let's listen to their concerns, and get a good plan in place.
Are you worried about the escalating trade war between the U.S. and Canada?
Anytime we talk trade war, I think we should all be worried about it, especially here in the North Country. You've heard the figures every day. Over 20% of our workers right here in the Plattsburgh region go to work for a Canadian company. And we like that relationship. We want that relationship to continue. It's been very beneficial opening up this Quebec corridor here to the North Country.
It's only been about a month for the U.S. tariffs. Canada just retaliated at the beginning of July. Has there been any indication that it's having a negative impact?
In talking to the Chamber and a few businesses, we haven't seen it yet. And I think most of your, when it first comes out, it's kind of like the first shot fired in a trade war. I don't think there's going to be a huge impact right now, but I think the more this goes on, it certainly will. And certainly our friends, if they put in more tariffs on our goods and we do the same, it's going to keep escalating. And I think that's the fear, that's the worry that we have here in the North Country, that eventually it will have a devastating impact on us.
And
we're certainly not there yet.
And aside from trade and tourism, is there any concern or any signs that it's impacting Canadians wanting to come down here?
I don't think there's a sign of it yet.
Long term, it concerns it could affect our relations with Canada?
It certainly does concern me long term, but I don't see any effect of it right now.
The President, in his criticism of Canada, has used the tariffs that American dairy farmers have been facing as one of the major reasons for the U.S. retaliating. Is the President right to criticize? Have the farmers in New York and other farmers in the U.S. been effectively shut out of the Canadian market?
Well, I think it goes both ways on that also, Tom. But anything that hurts, my background, dairy farming, anything that hurts us, I think we should definitely have talks with our friends to the north on that, but I don't think the right answer right now is totally, shutting down communication and putting a bunch of tariffs on there.
The convictions of former associates of Governor Cuomo has renewed calls for ethics reforms in Albany. Some watchdog groups are calling for a special session to combat corruption. The governor said repeatedly that he didn't know about the bribery and bid rigging at the center of the scandals and the trials, saying changes have already been made. But do you think he should do more? Or do you think the legislature needs to do more?
I think there's always more that can be done when you're talking about ethics reform. I've always been an outspoken proponent of more ethics reform. I actually ran on a platform of that a couple of years ago when I ran for this office, and we should do more. We should do more to be transparent, and we can do more. My platform would be that we should strictly limit outside income. I have said that I will not take any outside income, but you can do all that. Let's remember these latest cases were for public officials in the governor's administration. They weren't for legislators, although the legislature has certainly had their problem. So you have to do it broadly with agencies, with public officials, and with elected officials as well. But certainly any reforms that we can do to promote the public trust in our government, we should do. Because if we don't have trust in our government, we don't have a government.
As you mentioned, yes, it's been associates of the governor, it's been developers. Of course, there were both the leaders of the legislative chambers, the former leaders who have been convicted again.
There's enough to go around, that's for sure.
Is there a concern that that there may be an eroding trust of state government on the part of a lot of people seeing this, and how do you counter that?
Yeah, I think there is. We've had campaigns run nationally and on the state level in the past couple of years on basically throw the bums out. And that is an erosion of public trust in our government. So anything we can do to get the public trust back, we certainly should.
Do you think it's likely that the legislature will
I
look
hope
at
so.
any bills or
I
take any action?
I certainly encourage it, and I hope we do.